The story that you are about to hear should be a reminder that being at the right place at the right time can often lead to people making a fortune of wealth. This is the story of how a man went from living a relatively normal life, working a job as a bike messenger, to capitalising on one of the most profitable business ventures of recent decades. This is his story. Mike Mann is not a name that is well known, yet his story of riding a wave of extreme wealth creation is definitely a story that we can learn a lot from. Despite not recognising the name Mike Mann, it is pretty much guaranteed that you have used one of his assets without even realising it, and perhaps you didn't even know it was an asset in the first place. In Mike's early life, he worked as a messenger, riding his bike through the streets of Delaware where he grew up. Mike found himself unable to hold down a proper job and would get into trouble wherever he went. This led him to run away from home when he was just 15 in 1982. He moved across the country to California, where he enrolled in business management at Santa Barbara City College. His interest in business was driven not by his desire to make money for himself. Mike was heavily involved in charity work, and he wanted to raise as much money for charity as possible. He admired the work that charities were doing in the city and simply wanted to make money so that he could build his own charity trust someday. To begin with, once Mike finished college, he ran some fairly typical business ventures. At one point, he ran a company selling pretzels, and after this, he ran a bike messenger service company. This wasn't enough, however. Mike needed something more. He wasn't making nearly enough money. He started to go to his local library and he would read books on how to make money. He soon noticed that all of the articles that he was reading had one thing in common. Each article would describe this new technology called the internet, somewhere where eventually all the newspapers, and indeed articles like these, would be found entirely online. Some articles also predicted that it was on the internet that a huge amount of billionaires would eventually be made. Mike was hooked. This was the first of two lightbulb moments. If he was to learn everything about the internet, then this would be a surefire way to make enough money to fund his charity ventures. So, Mike studied the internet and experimented in the space. These were the very early days of the internet era, with only a few websites in existence. Mike first managed to set up his own internet service provider, hoping to make money from commercial clients which would pay money to use the internet service. The only problem is, the clients didn't buy in. With lots of competition for internet service providers, Mike's company was stalling. In a bid to bring in some interest from clients, Mike thought that it would be a great idea to buy up some domain names. Now, a domain name is simply a unique website address, such as youtube.com. The going rate for a domain name was around $50, so they were a relatively risk-free purchase. Mike was hoping that companies would be more interested in his internet service provider if he had ownership of premium domain names. For example, Mike bought the domain name menus.com in a bid for the National Restaurant Association to give him money. This didn't work. The commercial clients weren't interested. It wasn't the end of the day though, as Mike had only paid approximately $70 for the domain name menus.com. Some time had gone by before one day in 1994, completely out the blue, Mike's fortune changed. Someone made him an offer for menus.com for $25,000. Mike couldn't believe it, and he jumped at the offer. This was a roughly 35,000% return on his investment. The next day, however, someone else offered $50,000. Although Mike was committed to the first offer by this point, this was a second lightbulb moment in his life, and the moment which would come to shape his focus going forward. Mike couldn't believe it. Why were companies paying this amount of money for a domain name? In 1994, the answer to this question was perhaps not as clear as it is now. Looking back, it is easy to see the huge benefits that having a premium domain name could have to a company's profits. Having a short, relevant domain name makes it easier for people to find websites. This is extremely useful for companies, as having a premium domain name will increase traffic to a website, which increases sales, and therefore profits. Also, customers are much more likely to buy something from a website when the website has a short, relevant domain name. In 1994, these benefits were unforeseen. Companies had only just begun to move online, and the dot-com boom was still a few years away. This is why the price of these domain names was still so cheap. People were just unaware of their future potential value. Mike realised that the right domain names were worth a lot of money to the right people. He started buying them up as fast as he could. In the beginning, the process of buying a domain name was difficult and slow. To buy a domain name, you first had to be at the front of the queue. Domain names could be owned for a period of 2 years, and so you would have to wait until they had expired in order to snap them up. You would have to send a mailed certificate along with approximately $50 and could only get one domain name per snail mail address. Mike had to use his friends and family in order to buy up multiple domain names. He also ended up buying many great domain names, many of which he still holds to this day, including tasty.com, realtors.com and happybirthday.com. There was one problem. The process of buying domain names was too long and Mike knew it. Mike, having no interest in technology, contacted his friend who was a programmer. This was in a bid to automate and speed up the process. Within a couple of weeks, he had a program which could automatically buy large volumes of domain names. He also built into the program a way of automatically searching for what he called quality or premium domain names. These were the domain names that were likely to be worth a lot of money in the future. You see, there are so many possible domain names that the majority of them will not be worth any money at all. And so, Mike focused the next chapter of his adventure to build software which could identify a good domain name. He would then go on to patent this technology and turned it into a website called buydomains.com. He used this platform to vacuum up large amounts of domain names and become the most dominant player in the space. At his peak, Mike's platform was buying 15,000 domain names per day, to a peak of a total of around 800,000 domain names. Most of the domains were .com, but he started buying up .org and .net names too. In the mid-2000s, the competition started to catch on. There were now a large number of players with scripts that were pounding on registers and would snap up names the nanosecond they expired. So, how much money did Mike make? Well, he sold his company, buydomains.com, in 2005 for around $80 million, the proceeds of which went to his charity fund. As well, he broke the record in 2010 for selling the highest value domain name, with sex.com selling for $13 million. He has clearly done well for himself. He currently runs a couple of other related businesses, one of which is the popular domainmarket.com. Mike's net worth to date is not well publicised, but it is likely to be well into the tens of millions of dollars. He is still the dominant force in the space, roughly 30 years on from his first domain sale. Today, Mike makes money by essentially betting which domain names are worth buying, and at what price. He values domain names in the same way other investors would look at company balance sheets and income statements to value a company's stock price. In the world of speculative investments, it likely doesn't get any more abstract than investing in domain names. Yet Mike has proven it to be a reliable investment over this 30-year career investing in the space. The story of Mike Mann and his dominance in the domain name market is truly a right place, right time moment in history. Perhaps his story can be a reminder that fortune may choose to favour those whom intend to use their wealth for good. If you made it this far, I would like to thank you for watching. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, as it helps me out a great deal. Goodbye for now, and I will see you in the next video.